So I'll give you a little bit of background while we get the presentation up and started. In terms of the presentation this evening, what we're going to be able to do is cover a wide variety of information because we're doing both the collège offer and the lycée offer. So we'll move somewhat quickly in order to be sure that we get everything in. But of course, the application process is the same. So when we get to the end of the webinar, we'll have a couple of slides and some information about the application process, and we'll also have the opportunity for some questions. What I'd like to suggest is that you write your questions in the chat, and that way we can kind of see if we get duplicate questions, we'll only answer it once. If we have some questions that perhaps require a little more personal response, we'll ask you to please call Mrs. Sokan or email your question. So we'll manage that as we go along. But thank you all for coming, and on with the show, yes, I guess.
With the show. So for the people who've just joined us, we have Miss May, who's the head of section, and I'm Jodie Sokan, I'm the admissions manager. So we'll be presenting with various speakers the Section Internationale LCSC-NLR Noisy-le-Roi, the secondary program. So we'll be covering collège and lycée. Again, I know I've said it before, but this call is being recorded. So the program tonight, the content of the webinar is to explain who we are, where we are based, what our offers are, specifically our curriculum, what we are teaching our students, the community, because we're not just a educational offer, we're also a community of parents, of students. And last but not least, we'll be also explaining the application process. Michelle, could you tell us a bit more about who we are?
Yes, please. So this idea here, we've entitled it as our DNA, but we are a fee-paying section. So we are a private section within the French public schools. So first and foremost, your children, our students, are students of the French public school, be it the collège or the lycée level. And the international section, the offer of the courses in English, is delegated to the teachers of the international section by Éducation Nationale. So we are accredited, we have agreements that are signed, etc. Our teachers all have the ability to teach within the French system. We follow the same rules for report cards, and we attend the conseils, etc. So we're full members of the pedagogical team at the different schools where that we partner with. We are a parent-led association. We celebrated 20 years just last year, and we're more than just an educational offer, but we're also a community. So there is a need for parent volunteers. There is a lot of interaction between parents and teachers. There's kind of a privileged relationship between the teaching community and the parental community, or the parent part of the association. All of the coursework is in English. All of our teachers are native speakers. And the materials that we use, we'll talk a little bit more when we go into the curriculum, the programs, but all of our textbooks and reading materials, etc., come directly from either British or American or Canadian or Australian publishers. So the coursework is all in English. It is, of course, age appropriate. So your children will be taught as native speakers in English, in literature and history geography, according to their academic ability. So whether they're in CZM in 6th grade or in Terminale in 12th grade in the American system, they would be dealing with material and content that's appropriate for their age. We have a community of 14 teachers, 2 assistants, and 4 administrative staff for all of these 271 students at the moment.
Can I just add that the fact that the program is bilingual, in terms of our program, what we offer is in English, but the students are first and foremost students from the French school. They do have to academically be solid.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That it is a kind of a weight or not part of their schooling is in addition to what's offered on the French side, And so students have to be solid academically. They don't have to be perfect students, but they do have to be solid in order to appreciate and manage the coursework that's asked of them.
Thank you, Michelle. Our location, so we are based in 5 different schools. First of all, in the primary program, we are in the Groupe Scolaire Pasteur in La Celle-Saint-Cloud, which you will see there on the map, which is, well, it's the catchment area, which is in orange. I won't present the 2 towns, La Celle-Saint-Cloud, Noisy-le-Roi. They are towns in the western suburbs of Paris. Very leafy, accessible to Paris, easy commute. So in La Celle-Saint-Cloud, we are in Maternelle Pasteur, École Primaire Pasteur, and we also go up to Collège in the same area, which is called La Feuillaume. It's a very leafy and residential area of La Celle-Saint-Cloud. But we also have a collège in Noisy-le-Roi, which is called Jean-Baptiste Lacantini. Mr. Massé, who's here tonight, will be explaining a bit more about his collège, the size of the school. And then lastly, because we are offering a program from Grande Section up to Terminale in the lycée, so preparing the BFI, the Bac Français International, we do that. We are partnered with the Lycée Corneille in La Celle-Saint-Cloud, which happens to be the catchment school for both collèges, so Collège Noisy and Collège La Celle-Saint-Cloud. If you want a bit more information in terms of location, the pros and cons on both towns, I'm happy to, either take questions later or to have calls later in this week. We will ask Mr. Massé to present his school.
Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Massé.
Bon, my English is bad, so I'm talk to French. Sorry. Donc bonsoir à tout le monde. Je suis le principal du collège, head director.
Yeah.
Voilà, donc le directeur. Le collège de Noisy-le-Roi, c'est un collège où il y a 650 élèves à peu près. C'est plutôt un collège d'une belle taille. Les élèves sont entre 25 et 30 par classe, on va dire. Je crois que nous avons aujourd'hui un peu plus de une cinquantaine d'élèves qui sont dans la section internationale, donc 7 ou 8%. L'objectif, c'est d'essayer d'en avoir un peu plus parce que ces élèves apportent beaucoup de choses et surtout qu'on a des programmes avec des enseignants français hors section internationale qui font des réflexions sur l'Europe, sur l'international, avec des voyages, voilà, avec la notion de culture. Et le domaine artistique ou scientifique existe bien entendu. Donc, les élèves de section internationale s'intègrent parfaitement finalement dans l'établissement. Alors, vous l'avez dit un peu tout à l'heure, ils ont des cours spécifiques avec des enseignants que vous recrutez, avec toutes les autorisations. Donc, ils ont 6 heures en fait de cours par niveau. 4 heures de littérature anglaise et 2 heures d'histoire géo, on va dire adaptée en anglais. Donc, mais ils ont toutes les autres cours du collège, un peu moins d'histoire. Donc, ils ont en gros 26 heures, 28 heures de cours par semaine. C'est l'horaire classique pour des élèves de collège. Donc, l'essentiel de leur enseignement est en français. Et c'est sûr que parfois, on a eu des élèves, et on en a, qui ne maîtrisaient pas très bien le français et qui, pour autant, en 2 ou 3 mois, ont réussi à parfaitement comprendre les cours en français et à s'intégrer. On sait bien que les jeunes ont ces facilités linguistiques que les adultes ont moins. Et puis, les projets qui sont menés au collège sont parfois faits ensemble. Ils participent au voyage scolaire comme d'autres élèves. Il y a des projets, vous en parlerez sûrement, de sortie ou de voyage spécifique section internationale. Voilà, on est également un établissement scolaire dans 2 communes en fait, qui sont Noisy-le-Roi et Bailly, qui se touchent. Noisy, c'est 8000 habitants, en gros, Bailly, c'est 4000, donc ça fait 12 000 habitants, c'est un peu des petits villages, beaucoup, très pavillonnaires, et finalement avec une ambiance très studieuse. Globalement, c'est un collège très studieux, à l'image de ceux proches d'ici et de la Celle-Saint-Cloud, qui est Versailles. On est très très proche de Versailles, et des axes routiers. La particularité peut-être du collège, c'est la forte implication dans le développement durable, beaucoup de projets sur le développement durable. euh, avec des élèves qui vont créer des choses, communiquer aux parents, aux personnages politiques de la ville, voire plus loin, qui vont faire des concours, qui en gagnent. Une grande implication avec un pragmatisme, mais en même temps une envie de faire bouger un peu les choses. Et ils sont aidés d'enseignants et régulièrement, une fois par semaine, ils se retrouvent et ils font de grandes choses. On a également des élèves qui sont ce qu'on appelle des ambassadeurs collégiens pour lutter contre le harcèlement et une équipe également de professionnels d'enseignants et non-enseignants qui s'y sont attachés. Et donc, en fait, on a en charge le bien-être des élèves. Donc, si je devais décrire finalement quelques mots le collège, il y a beaucoup de sérénité, une prise en compte de l'autre, que ce soit le jeune ou le parent. On est à l'écoute. Je pense qu'en termes de communication, on est capable de réagir extrêmement rapidement à des questions des uns et des autres. Donc, sérénité, beaucoup de bien-être et je crois que c'est ce qui caractérise notre établissement avec des multiples projets, des ateliers de musique où on peut faire des concerts dans le hall lors de récréation. Voilà, il y a un foisonnement d'idées et puis c'est un bel établissement en plus avec beaucoup de luminosité et très chaleureux. Voilà en gros ce que je peux dire sur le collège. Donc, il y a 5 classes par niveau, 5 sixièmes, 5 quatrièmes, 5 cinquièmes, 5 troisièmes. Oui, peut-être on a aussi, mais ça ne concerne pas les élèves section internationale des filières horticulture, c'est juste pour donner la couleur aussi de l'établissement, avec des élèves qui apprennent à être jardiniers paysagistes, qui apprennent à faire de la cuisine, ce qu'on ne trouve pas dans tous les collèges et qui est aussi intéressant. On a, et pour terminer, des élèves également malentendants dans certaines classes. Ça ne concerne pas les classes où sont des élèves section internationale, mais finalement, c'est une manière de montrer que ce collège intègre tous les élèves et que les différences sont une richesse. Et finalement, c'est aussi pour ça que les sections internationales m'intéressent beaucoup, parce que cette richesse liée aux différences, eh ben, elle profite à tous et elle fait se rencontrer des univers qui ne se rencontrent d'habitude pas et qui profitent à tous. Donc, beaucoup d'émulation intellectuelle et beaucoup de sérénité. Voilà, un calme important dans l'établissement. Je répondrai après aux questions si vous souhaitez.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur
Merci
Messier. We definitely agree. Our offices are based in La Catigny, and we are really we benefit from also the music during lunch and
Yes.
the breaks, and it's a lovely environment to work in.
Yes.
And we're very lucky as well because Mr. Massé always accept to organize visits of the school. So this is also possible when your children will be invited to come and test if they are in France. You can also have a look around. Going to Collège Pasteur, I was wondering if Mr. Perra, so Mr. Perra is our English literature teacher.
Yes, I'm not the director of the school.
Yes, no, you're not director of the school, but do you mind, because that's also
You're
the school,
most familiar with that. school.
exactly, more than me. Would you
I
mind?
certainly can.
Thank you.
I, of course, cannot provide the same level of detail and eloquence as Mr. Messi has just done with Noisy. I can at least give you a few details as well as my impression of the school. So Pasteur, of course, is located in LCSC-NLR. It is conveniently attached to the primary school, so the students who move from the primary to the secondary program do not have to go far. So that's always a great convenience for them, and probably something that helps with the orientation as well as the changes that Collège brings. Pasteur has about 450, perhaps a little less students, and has similar class sizes to Noisy, between 20 to 25, perhaps more in some classes. We also have the UPU12A program, which is something to mention because quite a few of the students who join the section also benefit from that program, especially those who are moving to France for the first time or have not spent so much time within the French education system. This allows them to really learn French as a foreign language, get comfortable with the curriculum in France as well as with the culture. And typically we work as the section entière alongside them to get the students prepared and integrate them fully into the collège and into, French life. what else can I say about Pasteur? It's a smaller school, as you might be able to see, but also provides the opportunity to have that sense of family, of security that if only a smaller size school can provide. They also offer German as well as Spanish as other foreign languages that can be looked at for students. And there's quite a robust program for music, where we have the teacher of music who works with quite a few interesting programs, such as the Opera of Paris. So there's a lot of different opportunities for students who are interested in music or even journalism, as there's a pretty good journalism club here at Pasteur. And as well as there is a section on terre that is quite, I must say, well done. So yes, a very brief introduction to Pasteur as a school, but it's a great place.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pera. So what do we have to offer in college?
So we've kind of covered a little bit of this, but basically our programs are the same at the two college sites, at La Quintinie in Noisy-le-Roi and at Pasteur in La Cesse-Saint-Cloud. Even the teachers, there's no, once you decide kind of which campus suits you better, the teachers the teach at both schools. So the offer is, there's not a difference in the quality or the ability of our teachers. So the students get the same program, etc. All of our teachers are in fact qualified teachers and English-speaking natives. And we have small class sizes. For the moment, we have some classes, it really depends on the demographics, but we do have some classes that are between 8 and 10, and we have some classes some groups that are about 15 or 16. But we are committed to maintaining smaller groups for our international classes, and we try not to go above 18. That's our real upper limit.
Just to clarify also on what Mr. Messi said and Mr. Pera, is that your child will be part of the national class, which will be up to 25 depending on the school year. But then for those 6 hours per week, they will be going to the section international class, where they will find themselves with only international section students, and therefore a smaller group. Sorry,
Correct.
probably
No,
didn't make
you're
sense.
absolutely correct. Yeah,
Sure.
good clarification. Yeah. So our college programs, as Mrs. Sokan was just saying, within the week, the students then, their coursework in the international section is integrated. So they have a total of 4 hours of English language and literature and 2 hours of history geography. So the English language and literature, of course, replaces a little bit the coursework that they would do as a regular French student in English. And the history geography classes are on top of the work that they do in their French classes. So for the total in college level, the total number of hours in class more than their French classmates is only 3. So the increase in the number of hours in the week that students are in class is only a minor increase as opposed to their national classmates. We do offer the international brevet at the end of troisième, and we have 100% success in the brevet. And so that's an additional kind of feather in their cap when the students finish the college level. We do a trip in alternate years for 5e and 4e students, the classes from both collèges for the moment. This year, the trip is being planned for Ireland. So the students from both classes at both schools, it takes a lot of coordinating, but they have all been invited to participate this year in our trip to Ireland, to the West Coast. We have, as I mentioned already, native speakers for teachers. And there is the possibility, as Mr. Pera mentioned, of what they call the UPE2A. That took me about a year to learn how to say. And it's a French immersion program. And that is specifically at the Collège Pasteur. There is a teacher who's dedicated to that, and students can come and then he guides them in their acquisition or their improvement in the French language in order to be sure that they are successful in the international program. And students get there very quickly. It's very impressive. There is not a specific UPE2A program at the Collège in Noisy-le-Roi. However, Monsieur Massé, that you just met, assures us that the support for students continuing their French perfection, continuing to perfect their French, will be supported. Those are some hours and faculty teachers that he has available and can commit to that. So it's not a specific program, but it is an option.
So the idea of the section initially, and we've tried to remain true to who we are and how we were created initially, was to enable all families to have a bilingual education, or to offer bilingual education to their children. And this is the reason why we've tried to keep as much as possible reasonable fees. So you will see here the tuition fees for the year. You will see this collège tuition fees and lycée, which is, so it's a different fee whether you are in seconde or première terminale.
So the reason for that, if I can just mention quickly, at the lycée, of course, there are additional fees because there are additional exams that we offer, as well as more textbooks that students need to work with. But in addition, in première and terminale, the students have 4 hours of history geography per week instead of 2. So they increase the number of hours, and that's why the tuition, of course, increases to correspond to that.
Mr. Perra, would you mind telling us what you teach our students? So from 6e to 3e, later in the webinar, Mr. Perra will be explaining to us what our students learn in English literature from seconde upwards.
Absolutely. So starting from CZM all the way till 3e till the end of their collège career, we have a program that essentially builds upon itself almost as if it's a spiral curriculum. The idea is that students will learn skills at a CZM level, as a base level, and those skills will be reinforced throughout the time that they spend within the section. So within CZM, you can see the list of skills here, such as creative, critical analysis, creative and transactional writing, descriptive, figurative language, things such as writing poetry, appreciating and analyzing poetry, writing journal entries, reading and discussing and watching theater, drama, writing essays, of course, as well as grammar and vocabulary are all skills that we work on every single year and reinforce. We revisit different aspects of these different skills every single year, and the students go deeper into those skills. So for example, with critical analysis, students in CZM, they start writing a paragraph called the PEE, which is a point evidence explanation, which is a simple structure for writing a paragraph that analyzes, or at CZM level, explains a concept or an idea. And then by the 3e level, they're writing something called a PEAL, which is a PEAL, which is a point evidence analysis and a link, which is a more complicated version of that paragraph that provides the students with the opportunity to analyze language that they find in literature and provide a more, I would say, nuanced and mature focus on what the literature is trying to say, the purpose of the author, as well as, what the art behind literature really is. And you can see in the images, there's a variety of books that we study from CZM all the way up to 3e. This is, of course, not all the novels that we study, but we have quite the variety. We have things such as Frankenstein, the play by Pullman. We have The Westing Game, which is a mystery novel. The Giver, which is some kind of dystopian fiction. But also we look at classic American books such as To Kill a Mockingbird, or Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. And then, as you can see, the next 2 last books, Purple Hibiscus and Twelfth Night, count among the books that we do in 3e. And that is when students will start to focus on the LCSC exam, which is a type of Cambridge English exam. So that's when they will start really focusing on looking at literature more in depth and discussing why authors choose to do something, or what is the effect of the language used. So we start looking at Shakespeare. We start looking at novels that are more built or written for an adult or a more mature audience. So as we go from CZM to Troisième, you'll notice that there is progress and growth that we measure and are very careful to provide students with the opportunity to grow alongside the program. And that's that in a nutshell.
Yeah, I would just underline, because I think this is something we've talked about among teachers on occasion, is that we encourage the personal response. We
Absolutely.
encourage students to develop their ability not just to analyze according to a set of rules, but their own, bring their own flavor to it, their own thinking to it. And that's really important in line with the objectives.
Absolutely.
In the classroom.
And that plays a big role too with the IGCSE as well, where they are actually graded on their personal response. So even the Peel structure, which feels very rigid, and at times it can be, does provide for opportunities for students to provide a personal bent in terms of their analysis. But also we do quite a bit of creative writing as well. In CZM, the students write their own scary stories. They produce their own short films based on the scary stories that they've written. All throughout the years, we have tons of creative work that provides students with the opportunity to share themselves through their work. There's a ton of poetry writing, journal entries, things like that. Students have plenty of opportunities beyond just analytical writing for them to really, explore the personal side of creativity.
Thank you,
Great.
Stephen. You make it sound so appealing.
Aren't you ready to go to this
Yes,
class?
I want
know.
to go back.
So in addition to assisting and leading the section with the administrative side of things, I also am a historian, and I teach history. This year I teach in Première and Terminale, but I have taught the collège in the past, and I hope to again in the future. I would just kind of highlight, I won't go into all these different aspects, but there is a lot of overlap in terms of the approach that we have in history and geography on the Anglo side as well with literature. Again, we look at critical analysis. We use in particular source work. So students are trusted in a way with the historical sources, the historical documents, political cartoons, speeches, etc. We trust them with those sources themselves and encourage them to develop interpretation, essay writing, and then develop, of course, grammar and vocabulary. Of course, a lot of the vocabulary is similar, but it's important to spell history with a Y instead of an IE, as your writing will quickly become kind of noted as having a French flavor to it. And the approach that we take, I've listed the content. Our content is based on the French programs. So we do follow the history, geography, the national programs. Basically, though, what we do is we give it the Anglo side as appropriate. So, for example, in CZM, one of the main themes that's covered is the heritage, of course, that France and Europe has thanks to the Romans. And we emphasize the Romans in Britain. And we talk about why they didn't get so far in Ireland, and why they didn't get so far in Scotland. But the idea is to take the Anglo perspective of the French program. And we'd look at the introduction to geography, so some geographical concepts, and we're really looking into those concepts that will provide students to go deeper in the years that follow. In 5e, it's the British Middle Ages. There's a lot of similarity. The image I chose, of course, on the slide is from the Bayeux Tapestry. So we have Harold swearing his oath to William the Conqueror, as we call him in English. But there's a lot of overlap between, of course, France and Britain during the Middle Ages. And so we like to emphasize that relationship. In geography, we look into development, lesser developed countries, more developed countries. Is economics the only measurement for development, etc.? In 4e, the revolutionary era. So we look at the revolution in France. We look at then moving into the 19th century and some of those revolutionary ideas such as Marx and Engels and as a response to the Industrial Revolution. So it's a real rich period in 4e. And the parallels with globalization can certainly be made as the world becomes more connected. So we build on the technological shifts that happened earlier that have led us to the modern day global world that we live in. And then troisième, finally, as students tell me, we get to the 20th century. And we look at, of course, the 2 world wars, the interwar period, and the Cold War that follows. So that gives you an overview of the programs from 6e to 3e in history geography. So now we'll go over to the lycée. So I don't know who is here for the lycée, but some of you, of course, I'll go a little bit quickly. Some of you will be maybe at this lycée someday, but you'll see some of the pictures. As Mr. Massé said for the collège here in Noisy-le-Roi, one of the things the collège or the lycée Corneille has in common with the collège here is it is very bright. There are lots of lights, lots of windows, and it really captures, well, not today, it wasn't. We had a lot of rain, but it usually is very well lit, and students have a certain appreciation for that in their classrooms. We have around 38 students at the lycée level. We have this year a small cohort of 10 in seconde, 14 in première, and 14 in terminale. So to give you an idea what that means in terms of their international classes, these are the small groups, the cohorts that find themselves together for between 6 and 8 hours a week with their international teachers. So for language and literature and for history geography. But again, it's all integrated. They have a normal class, their national class size is probably 32 to 34. So the classes are larger, of course, at lycée. The teachers, the faculty at the Lycée Corneille, I find very motivated. Lots of projects that go on, specialty weeks for Spanish, for sustainable development, ecology. There's a very active club for that as well. We do have a Model United Nations club that we're working, and oh, I have it on another slide. Look at that.
Sorry.
Okay. No, thank you. Good to move forward. So the hours students have in seconde, 4 hours of English language and literature, 2 hours of history geography, plus the 3 hours in French. And then from première on, as I indicated earlier, we add 2 hours. So the students have 2 hours of history and 2 hours geography in première, and the same in terminale, because this prepares them for the Baccalauréat Français International, which used to be called, until this year, the OIB, the Option Internationale Baccalauréat. So you might have heard of the OIB. Its new incarnation is the BFI. And the exams at the end of the year are in both disciplines, language and literature and history geography. The exam that we offer in and prepare students for in seconde is the IGCSE in English literature. And the preparation begins in troisième, and then we build on that in seconde when the students sit the exam in the month of May. The co-curricular activities that we offer in alternate years, when we're not taking the 5e and 4e somewhere, we try to take the seconde and première students. So that way students who stay with the program through their secondary education have a trip in collège and a trip in lycée. And we are all, I think, very happy since post-COVID to be back to trips, outings and other activities. We've missed them. So we do have some Shakespeare workshops. We have a professional actor who comes in and does workshops with us for the students in the lycée and troisième. And then we have the Model United Nations Club, or the debate club that we have going, and that Mr. Para is the supervisor for. And what else? Well, the school itself has a lot of co-curricular activities, not just the section. I think that that's important for families, who come to the lycée understand, is that the offer is more than the international section. As I was saying, I find the teachers very engaged and enthusiastic about their teaching, and certainly, definitely behind students and student success. And it's the community that really comes through when you visit or when you work at the Lycée Corneille. All right, back to you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Pera.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, so not only do I teach at the college, I'm also responsible for the students of Première and Terminale, and my focus in my classes is on the oral component of the BFI. That means the component where students have a conversation about what the current topic is, which is Gothic literature, with an examiner for a set amount of time based on an introduction they provide on a Gothic poem that is followed by a conversation about Gothic literature, specifically the text they study in my class, which is Frankenstein and Dracula. I also prepare them for the Shakespeare portion of the exam as well, which with this year we are doing Antony and Cleopatra. And within that class, they learn how to write commentary, literary commentary on the play as a drama as well as a piece of literature. On the other side, that is taught by another English teacher, my colleague, Ms. Latier, they look at literature such as A Streetcar Named Desire or A Room with a View, and they learn how to write more traditional essays on the topic for, again, it's always for the BFI. In second, there's a focus more on the IGCSE, of course, and that is with stories such as Rebecca or Shakespeare's play Twelfth Night. The focus in the lycée, on the lycée level, is obviously higher stakes in terms of the workload as well as the expectations of analysis and work. I won't say work already, but there is still room for personal response, and it's something that's highly valued in the class, as well as on the BFI. For example, in the oral component, we are often looking for what we call personal pathways into the material. That means that students are providing an introduction about Gothic poetry in a way that shows a personal response and interest in the Gothic topic in general. And that usually is reflected by one of the key issues that they are given, which they study throughout the semesters or throughout the program. Voilà.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you. So my turn again for history geography. I feel like I'm playing tennis with Mr. Pera, just bouncing back and forth. So key skills, we continue to build on case study analysis. This is a fundamental concept for the geography program in particular, where students, for example, if they're going to develop an argument or an analytical essay around globalization or urbanization as an aspect of globalization, well, we don't just want to hear about general urbanization or who's moving into their neighborhoods or what type of housing they have seen being built. The idea is to look at a specific case study. How is urbanization being managed, for example, in certain towns or certain areas, especially on the continent of Africa, because we look at how that is impacting the country's development, etc. Source work continues to be one of the key features of the program. We begin to branch out a little bit into, or go a little deeper, I guess, into historiography, which is the study of history, the study of history. And so we look at different interpretations. And what's always fascinating to me is that students who've been in the international section in college often already kind of can get their head around the fact that not all history is created equally, and that there are different ways of interpreting a historical event. And one of the reasons is because they've done it themselves. They've looked at it in their college classes. They've looked at their different interpretations of sources of, this is the reason for William's victory. No, it wasn't. It's because somebody got an arrow in their eye. Oh, no, it was because they were on the hill. All those kinds of things begin to feed into their knowledge base, which I find really exciting. Essay writing continues to be central to their program in the lycée because the exams, of course, are require written essays. The content, again, is the French national program. It's shared with the national teachers. And the emphasis, as in the college as well, is on global perspectives. So we're really looking at the internationality, I guess, of the phenomenon in the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries. So the idea is to begin to analyze the reasons behind modern day Europe, and not only from the historical perspective, but to begin to combine that with the geographical perspective. So having kind of the big idea, the overarching themes and how they connect becomes important at the in the later lycée years. All right, so world knowledge. For those of you that are familiar or have already heard of the OIB, the BFI has added an additional component, and it's this is the first year that we'll be working on this with that we are working on this with the students, but it's an individual research project. And the idea is to have an interdisciplinary approach to your research, to the students' research, with an emphasis on British culture. And the students prepare this work over the course of Première and Terminale. They define their topic, they define their research question, they refine the questions that they're asking, the research that they're able to do. They are encouraged, one of the requirements is to find an international partner that they work with, either very, very closely or at least on a basic exchange via email or a phone call or a Zoom call, where students begin to kind of develop their own interdisciplinary project and are able to present it for the final exam. So the idea is that they prepare the work for on their own, I mean guided, but on their own, and then are ready at the end of Terminale to say, I've become an expert on this topic, and here's what's important about it, and here's what I find interesting and what I've learned. And so that is the third part of their BFI exams. So they have, at the end of Terminale, students have language and literature. They have a written and an oral component of the exam, not on the same day, thank goodness. They have history and geography as one discipline, as one topic. They do a written and an oral in that subject as well, and they present their world knowledge project. In addition to all these wonderful skills of essay writing, being able to ask pertinent questions, conduct your own research, begin to have a personal response to literature, etc. The BFI exams do validate a C1, C2 language level. So the expectation is that students who finish with the Terminale program by the end of their Terminale year have this level of language that allows them to communicate at a very high level academically, because it's more than just daily English. It's more than just being able to ask questions and converse with your friends and watch some movies. It really is a deeper level of learning and a cultural approach to knowledge that I think is very important. And I'll be darned, right on time
Right on spot.
is one of our Terminale students. So Manon, I'm going to turn on I'm going to ask you to turn on your mic, if you wouldn't mind. You don't have to turn on your camera. I know my Terminale students have tests tomorrow. So I very much appreciate, Manon. Thank you for making yourself available. Can you tell us, Manon, a little bit from your perspective, what has the international section offered you as a student?
The international section offers a lot of things to students. I think that the main thing is the cultural approach, an enormous cultural difference where you learn to see things from a whole new point of view. And since you learn a new language and you learn to explore a new language, maybe through literature, or through the points of view in geography or history, you learn to explore a whole new culture, and that gives you such a wide opening on the world. It's absolutely amazing. You have so much more understanding in general about culture and ideas and history when you know another language and when you study it in such depth as we do in the international section.
Do you think, or do you find that you have different skills than your French classmates?
Absolutely. We learn in the international section to develop some skills way earlier than in the French section. And sometimes I'm very surprised when French teachers tell us, yeah, you have a 5-minute presentation to do, and I know 5 minutes is a lot. To the international section students, it's really not. Like a lot would be 15 minutes because you're just accommodated from a young age. So for me personally, from CZM, to have a different way of working and be way more quick in what you do and straight to the point, that you can put so much more information in a presentation than French students would do. And it's amazing. So that I said about that for the orals, but even for the writing, in French, we don't learn the PEAL way of writing, which is basically a way of analyzing a piece of writing, which will be very useful for the Bac Français and also for the IGCSE, obviously. And that was extremely useful in our French writing because that is not learned in the French section. And French students usually struggle way more with the way they write than the international students who've learned to express their writing in a very synthetic, analyzed, and construct way.
Okay. Well, this is very interesting, Manon, because I'm sitting here realizing that I'm learning things about how you put together, because I don't live in the two worlds. I just live in the section inter world. But you've demonstrated, you've told us really how it's, your day goes between both pretty seamlessly, I think. Could you tell us just a little bit, Manon, about what your plans are for next year?
I want to go study in business and management or business and economics in an English school, or a Scottish school, so Glasgow or Warwick, Bath. And I know that wouldn't have been possible without the section. For the level of English that it brings me, like it allows me to understand the lessons or courses way better. It also gives me an idea of what it's like to work like in the English system and in the French system, which are two totally different things. So you can see if you like the English system better or the French system better. That allows you to choose already. And it also has a good thing on points. If you want to go study abroad, which for a lot of subjects is actually valorized, you can go study abroad, but you will have less expectations if you're in the international section than if you're not in the international section. So many schools have told me, you can go in our school if you get 15 or 16 on the back. But if you have the BFI, it will be 1 point less. So it allows you, like, you have, firstly, you get bonus points for answering because you already know how to speak the language. You already have an understanding of the culture and all. And if there's one subject that you're failing for some reason, you will still be able to get in because of the BFI, you can get in with 1 point less.
Interesting. So it does give you that boost. They're recognizing the value of what you've accomplished.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Wonderful. Is there anything else you would add before we let you go back to your studying?
Yes, I know a lot of parents are, and a lot of children especially, are worried about the workload. I'd like to say that it's really not that big of a deal. You can sometimes see the difference in timetables, but it'd be just a difference of like 1 or 2 hours more compared to your other students, really, when you come down to it. And the work at home you quickly get accustomed to, and it's really not that much of a burden. Once you've done the first year, which can be a little hard, I admit, the other years honestly just seem totally normal. You know how to balance the work, how to do it quick, easy, and the workload is not a problem at all.
Okay. And it's probably just so passionate. You're so passionate about it that you want to do it, I'm sure. Well, thank you, Manon,
Thank
very
you so
much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
See you tomorrow morning. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Great. So just a quick overview before we go to questions, I think. Our results are good. Our results are very good. In fact, IGCSE literature, the grades continue to be very positive in the last couple of years, and our OIB results as well. So students are coming out with very good results, very good grades, and a high level of satisfaction through the international section as well. And post-bac destinations. So you heard that Manon is applying. Her first choice is the University of Glasgow, but we'll see. I think Bath and Warwick are not too shabby as well. But we do have students that end up studying in lots of different areas. So from engineering to business, fashion design, and art school. A couple students in the past have gone to art design for online, for video programming, etc. Of course, med school and international law are also popular tracks for students to get into. Our students have successfully gone to and been admitted to the famous, or the infamous maybe, French Prépa at Henri IV and Lycée Hoche. We also have students who have gone to the other EDHSA and other programs that are challenging and are also competitive to get into. International, our students have attended schools in Canada, in the United States, as well as in England and Scotland. I think just maybe one or two students in the past has gone to Ireland. And increasingly, we have students, especially since Brexit, we have students being attracted to programs that are developing in the Netherlands. That's a up-and-coming destination. So that gives you an idea of the success that our students are meeting with as a result of their studies. Our community, over to you.
Yeah, so our community, as I was telling you at the beginning of the webinar, is that we want to make sure that not only the students are happy, that the parents are also involved, and we really stress importance on the fact that if the parents are happy, the students are, and vice versa. So we put on lots of activities, not us, but the parents who are involved. Organizes, potlucks, also we have book club, which is nice. Two main events, although we have lots of Christmas parties and Christmas shows. We also have two big events during the year, which are the quiz night, which is I think it takes place around February or March. And we also have the back to school picnic, which is one of my favorite events because
you get to meet everybody.
Exactly. So after,
Recruiting.
exchanging by email, we at long last get to meet everyone. And so all families come, everyone's invited, new families or families who've been with us before. And it's a brilliant opportunity, not only for parents, but also for the students to, just before the school starts again, they already know who is going to be in their class. And it's really brilliant to see them, get on even before the school has started.
Yeah.
So it's a lovely event.
Nice.
So hopefully, I think, hopefully you're convinced that this is the right program for your child. We've definitely had incredible speakers tonight.
Nice.
I'm quite impressed between Manon, Mr. Perrin, Michel.
Mr. Massé.
Mr. Massé, which exactly.
He can come back if we
He's
want.
going to come back if you have any questions for him. And so the application process is starting on the 1st of December, which is this week. We do not apply a first come, first serve policy. So just take your time. We'd prefer to see complete applications rather than, we won't assess any applications that are not complete. So take your time. You had the deadline to apply is the 19th of February, so you have plenty of time to gather all the documents. We do not take any paper applications. It's all done via our website. On the 1st of December, you will see a little button which will say apply now. It will lead you onto a form to fill out. Please just note, and there will be instructions, clear instructions, but you have to have all the documents first before you actually apply. You won't be able to save and come back. So it can be a bit frustrating if you have several children and you need to apply in one form for all children. And so you need to make sure you have all the documents. There will be instructions explaining the documents you need. So must-dos, there we are, apply once all the documents are ready. Once again, you have time, so no need to rush. We do ask, the reason why I'm saying that you don't need to rush is that we are expecting to see the current report for the first trimester, which you might not have received yet. So you might receive it as late as the end of January. So please do wait until you receive all the reports. The official oral and written test will be held on the Friday, 1st of March. You will hear back from us whether your child is invited to sit the test or not. The oral and the written will happen on the same day. So it's an hour and a half of written test. And then we go on to an oral test with one of our teachers, which is about 20 minutes long. For the students, coming from abroad that are currently enrolled in non-Éducation nationale school. So it's not just children coming from abroad in those non-Éducation nationale school, but also for any French private schools that wouldn't be sous contrat, which are hors contrat. Those students in particular, they will have to sit also a French and maths test. So it's not for everyone, it's just for very specific situations. We do also organize, we don't ask all families to come back from abroad to come and sit the test. We also organize distance tests. We will send you instructions if that concerns you, and we will be in touch. It's easy to organize. We organize them with your current school. There is, we want to make sure that it's very clear, there is an application fee, which is 105 euros per child. And then we also ask, so we prefer to do it step by step. We're a bit different to other schools in that respect, is that we don't want you to pay the bulk and then not invite your child to sit or etc. So we prefer to ask you to send us the application fee first. Then if your child is invited, the official testing fee. And then if again he passes the test, the English test, then we ask you again to pay a 50 euro fee for the French and maths. We understand it can be a bit surprising that we keep going, asking for different fees, but we find it's fair on families. Yeah. The documents that need to be provided very quickly, because it's written on the. It will be written on the form, so there's the form to fill out. A motivation letter, it's to better understand the family dynamics, why your child has an international twist. Handwritten work, which is an assignment given by a teacher as much as possible. Graded by a teacher as well, so it's to better understand at what level your child is currently studying. Then any English school reports we'll be happy to see. So this year and last. French school reports again, last year and current year. These are, of course, they're the compulsory documents are the application form, motivation letter. The school reports will be dependent. If you have an issue, if for some reason you don't have those documents, just contact admissions. Then we also contact your child's current English teacher. We ask of them a recommendation. So you'll be asked on the form to provide us with a valid email address for your child's current English teacher. And lastly, once you have submitted, we ask you again to send us to pay an application fee, as I was telling you, and you need to send this proof of payment to admissions. And once we receive this proof of payment, that's when we assess your application. So this really starts the whole process.
Can I suggest, I'm sorry, are you good?
Yeah.
I just wanted to suggest that Mr. Massé has come back. Do we want to ask him to say a little bit about UPE2 ans?
Yes.
On a plusieurs questions
D'accord.
sur UPE2A.
Mm.
On sait que ça, c'est pas exactement ici, c'est à Pasteur.
Pasteur.
Mais il y a des familles qui demandent quel est le soutien ou quel est le
Prise en charge.
support qui est là pour un élève, un enfant qui parle pas français au niveau.
Mm.
Voilà.
Alors, là, ils m'entendent si je parle.
Oui,
On n'a pas j'ai pas de réponse toute faite à cette question. Ce qui est sûr, c'est qu'on a une enseignante qui a la compétence français langue étrangère ou français langue seconde et qui est capable de prendre des petits groupes d'élèves. Alors, il faut que je la rémunère en plus parce que c'est pas prévu dans les services, mais j'ai quelques heures qui me permettent de le faire. L'an dernier, on avait un autre enseignant là qui est parti, un deuxième, qui a pris un ou deux élèves comme ça, 1 heure par semaine pendant 14 semaines. Alors, c'est pas beaucoup, mais je peux pas faire plus, mais ça, on peut faire. Et puis ensuite, ça, c'est souvent une vision d'adulte. C'est-à-dire que vous parliez tout à l'heure de l'apprentissage des langues. En fait, les adultes ont plus de mal à maîtriser une nouvelle langue que les enfants. Et les jeunes vont très vite. Et l'expérience qu'on a d'un élève qui n'était pas en section internationale, mais qui ne parlait pas un mot de français l'an dernier, qui est arrivé en 3e. En gros, au bout de 3 mois, il maîtrisait le français, il comprenait tout, et c'était un élève qui avait des compétences, comme sûrement vos enfants, hein, qui ont un bon niveau scolaire. C'est pour ça que vous l'avez dit au tout début. On ne veut pas des très bons élèves, mais il faut qu'il y ait quand même une base un peu solide. Et ce jeune, il a fini à 17 de moyenne, je crois, dans toutes les disciplines. C'est celui d'ailleurs qui est allé au lycée Marie Curie dont vous parliez, où il y a la section non, pas Marie Curie, il est allé à
Corneille.
lycée Corneille,
Ouais.
il a la section internationale,
Oui.
et voilà, et donc c'est un jeune extrêmement. Donc on peut s'adapter, et on est à l'écoute de chaque demande de famille, et voilà, on peut faire du cas par cas, mais on peut pas faire comme une UPE2A, ça c'est pas possible. Et l'UPE2A, de toute façon, à Pasteur, je sais pas exactement comment il fonctionne, mais la réglementation, c'est la première année entre 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heures et 12 heures maximum de prise en charge. Ils sont jamais individuels, hein, ils sont en groupe.
Oui.
Ils sont un groupe de 12 ou 14.
Oui. Oui.
Et si ça va bien au bout de 3 mois parce qu'il y a des élèves qui arrêtent toute l'année, on les remet à 100% dans les cours classiques, mais ils en ont déjà. Parce que même la prise en charge d'une dizaine d'heures, ça veut dire qu'ils ont 15 heures, 16 heures de cours en français, de toute façon. Donc même l'UPE2A, c'est pas 100% de prise en charge. D'ailleurs, ça veut dire qu'ils n'apprendraient pas bien, et on apprend en se côtoyant avec ses camarades. C'est pour ça que les élèves apprennent très vite. En fait. Donc, je ne sais pas si ça répond à la question, mais il n'y a pas de réponse évidente.
Merci beaucoup.
Oui.
So
we have a couple more questions.
Yeah, we'll go through should we go through the questions?
Sure, I think we can.
Yeah, is it okay? So just to recap on what Mr. Matty said is, so this is the support that can be provided in Noisy. So there is also a French immersion program in Pasteur, which in fact, depending a bit on the level of your child's French, either will first go in UPE2A and pick up on the French first and then transition into the international section, or they have they are a bit, they need to strengthen their French, but they're not strict beginners, and the school is happy to support on the French side at the same time as being in the international section. The step to apply in UPE2A is to contact admissions, because there's various, it depends a bit. It's case by case. So the best is probably that we organize a call later this week or in the coming month. How many places we have? It's difficult to say because the places move a lot during the course of the year. We don't just have our own figures, we also have the French school figures. So there's movement, families arrive during the course of the year, leave, etc. It's difficult for us to tell you the exact number of spaces we have, but we have space. Mr. Massey has confirmed last week, that there was space from 6e up to 3e in his school. We know there is places there will be space also for class in second. So we will have space in all our levels.
For seconde,
yeah.
the family seems to ask for troisième and seconde for next year. For seconde, there's no problem that we have large space options at Lycée Corneille.
Yes.
And in CESIAM as well.
So
There's
sixième
yep.
and seconde are our classes where we are, you know, main intakes. And we start from scratch, sort of thing, in the sense that we test everyone. And so we actually have a whole class to fill. So we have all the places available, meaning, you know, we said maximum 18 in a class. Well, there you go. We have that many spaces.
Yeah. So one of the questions too was, do you accept applicants from abroad? And the family says that they're in the process of obtaining a French visa, but they don't yet have a French address.
Yes, so that's happens very often. So once your child passes the entrance test and has taken the various, you know, has been given a spot, the child is being given a spot and will remain there. The spot will be given to him up until the family comes over and gets a French address. So don't stress too much. You know, you have time. We do have families coming from abroad, settling only after the school has started. Although this is not really the best advice to give you, but we often have families coming over during the summer. What we could advise and recommend is that you live in the 78. If you live in a 92 in the Hauts-de-Seine or any other department, it makes it more difficult because at the end of the day, it's the département who gives the dérogation out. The collège will be keeping the spot, but it's the département who confirms. So it's really better that you live in the 78 and obviously not too far from the school. It can be the neighboring towns. We can look together on a map if you'd like. You know, we can have a Zoom call, but basically Noisy, Bailly, so all the towns around, Feucherolles, Villepreux, Saint-Dans-la-Bretèche. And then in La Celle-Saint-Cloud, we have Marly-le-Roi, Louvciennes, Bougival, Croissy, Le Vésinet, as far as this. But the 92, Vaucresson, which is very close to La Celle-Saint-Cloud, is not advisable.
Another department.
Yeah, because it makes it just more difficult and a bit less sure. Where do the students come from?
They come from everywhere. We have a really varied student population. Some students are very French, from French families who have had expat experience and then return to France and want to keep their international profile and keep up their English, etc. So that happens. I'm trying to think in my Terminal class this year, I have students who are their mother is Scottish. I have another family who's from a Brazilian family, another family that's Portuguese, another family that is Indian. Let's see, another family that's American. So it really is a mix. It's hard to kind of say, but the profile of our students are either an expat experience or a native English speaker at home. For the level of English that they have. Yeah. Manon that you saw earlier today, I think her family was in the States for some time. And then when she came back, she integrated in CESIAM, but her family is French. So she was able to keep up her English through the international section.
So they all have an international twist,
yeah,
wherever that comes from. I think that's another question for you.
I think that's a question for me, but I'm not sure exactly. American materials or other U.S. perspectives in terms of history. We do use some U.S. materials, especially for the classes. I think our textbook now for Terminal History is from Collins. The geography books that we had were British. But especially as we move into the 20th and 21st century and modern topics, it's just hard to avoid American sources. So we do extensively. I think I gave the students a couple weeks ago, they read some of Roosevelt's speeches about the end of the war, etc. So there is a lot of, we are a British section, but we're an Anglo section, and we do the British BFI, the exams at the end.
So one of
I
the
hope
questions,
that answers the question.
One of the questions is where the button apply will appear. It will appear on our website. on various pages. So you shouldn't be able to miss it. So not in École Directe, on our official website, which is in all our signatures. You can find it easily. It's sectioninternational.org. How many tests should a child pass? So again, all our students are being assessed in English, orally and by written. Only for some, so it really concerns a small minority, but I did need to mention it. They will have to pass also math and French, sit the test. It's for children, it's for students who come from non-AEFE, so it means that are not in Éducation nationale public schools. They are not in public schools or recognized as such. This is why we need to test them math and French, because the French school need to make sure they have the required level. So it will only concern a small portion. How many open spots will there be available in Première?
For new Première, so students will have to be sure if they come in Première that they're ready to hit the ground running. Première and Terminale will be moving very quickly into the BFI. We have 10 students moving up from Seconde, so we could take up to 8 more students for Première next year.
Okay, so you can all apply.
You can all apply. Even Cesium can apply for Première.
What is the criteria for the applications? So basically, I think Michelle should enlighten us.
For the applications?
Yeah. Who do we choose to?
Well, we do a
consider
combination for the idea to invite to come to the entry test, the combination of the student's dossier, meaning their grade reports, as well as the family background and their experience in the language. Because first of all, like we said, the students do, even though we have the support for the French, if they need to get their French level up, students are primarily in the French school system for most of their week. So we do need to have kind of equal levels in both French and English. So the main criteria is that the student has fluency in English, bilingual, accomplishment, but that they can also function in the French system, or that's a pedagogical objective, that's a learning objective. So these are the criteria for the applications. Yeah.
Okay. No, there's no porte ouverte this Sunday. That's a question asked, but there is a porte ouverte. The open day for Lycée Corneille is around
I'm
April.
finding it.
Or is it
February?
February, sorry.
Saturday, February 3rd.
There we are.
And it's quite an event. So
Yeah.
I really recommend, if you can come on Saturday, February 3rd, we will be there, and you get to see the lycée for yourself. It's a really nice open house.
Yeah. Just to expand again about the number of students that we can offer places to next year, it really is a combination between how many spots we have available in our classes, but also the French public school. This is, again, going back, I won't give you any specifics. All I can tell you is that for next year, we will have space in all different levels.
Right.
If my daughter is doing PNED, I'm just reading the question here, for French language only, do they have to sit the test, the French exam? No, they do not. Thank you for asking that question. It's a good question. If your child is following the PNED, even if they are in a private school, which has nothing to do with the Éducation nationale, they will not have to sit the French test. If you're not sure whether you'd like to apply for Collège Noisy or Pasteur, just mention it. So choose one in your application in the form, and then in your motivation letter, which we read all the motivation letters.
Yes.
Please specify that you're open to the other college as well. Yes.
A Portuguese-Polish family living in Scotland. You'll fit in perfectly. That sounds brilliant.
Sorry.
I'm speaking French at home.
And you speak French at home, of course. Bien sûr.
Bien sûr. 2 questions. First one is 92. We do accept. I'm sorry. Thank you for asking again. If you do live in a 92, you are. Of course, you can apply, and we have a good derogation rate, good success rate. most of our students who apply from the 92 are, if they pass, etc., they are given derogation, but it's a bit less of a guarantee. Mr. Massé, maybe you can take it to
S'il vient du 92,
dérogation.
s'il vient du 92, oui.
est-ce qu'il peut toujours... oui.
C'est compliqué, vous l'avez dit. tout à l'heure.
Voilà, j'ai dit
Ouais,
que
c'est compliqué
pas
du 92
forcément-
parce que les départements, c'est eux qui affectent, c'est pas moi qui affecte. Et donc, parfois, entre un département, ils veulent pas faire sortir les élèves, ils préfèrent les mettre dans leur département. Il n'y a pas de garantie. Franchement, c'est compliqué. Le 92 touche les Yvelines, mais il y a plein de belles communes. Vous en avez cité beaucoup. Il y en a d'autres, l'Étang-la-Ville. C'est des communes qui sont proches de Paris, pas loin de la Seine et proches du collège. On a des élèves qui viennent de ces communes. Que j'ai pas dit également, mais quoique c'est vrai que c'est pas compatible avec section inter, c'est qu'on a des sections sportives, tennis et foot, mais c'est pas compatible. Donc ça, ils n'ont pas accès. Mais en tout cas, on a l'habitude d'accueillir des élèves d'autres communes. Voilà. Je pense qu'il y a des belles communes. C'est un endroit serein. Moi, ça fait 1 an et demi que j'y vis et j'étais pas très loin avant à Villepreux, vous l'avez cité. C'est à côté de Versailles. C'est vraiment un bel environnement et je pense qu'on trouve des plus belles maisons, plus grandes maisons et un peu moins chères dans les Yvelines que dans les Hauts-de-Seine. À Vaucresson, on a la même maison. Voilà.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Massé. Je suis désolée, on va... Sorry, we're going to shorten a bit the presentation. I mean,
We're at the end,
Yes,
but we
yes.
need to be respectful that we try to hit most of these questions. So I hope we've done as best we can. I think we have. I saw one more when you opened up that I
Yeah.
thought would be good to share. The percentage of trilingual students, it's hard to say because it's really varied. I would say that it's certainly probably not more than 2 or 3 per group. So that would be my answer. All of your other questions we are happy to answer.
Yes.
The reason we're cutting it short is because we have to finish the recording. So I hope that everybody understands. Please send us an email or give us a call, and we'd be more than happy to answer your questions individually. I know that we didn't get to everything, but it'd be our pleasure to speak with you and give you some more detailed information.
So thank you
So
so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you to all our speakers tonight.
Yes, thank you.
And
Right.
thank you for joining us tonight. And we'll be sending you the recording anyway tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
So we wish you all a very pleasant evening. And
Yes.
we'll be in touch soon, or, we'll be in contact.
Yes, one
Thank
way
you
or
so
the
much.
other.
Exactly.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank
Bye.
you.